Ladies and gentlemen, introducing your host, the Heartbreaker Moneymaker, King of Pennsylvania Strong Style, and the Champion of Time, $1,000,000
What's
Matt.
going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling Fluency, where we speak wrestling and we hope you do too. Brandie, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Matt. Just, keeping it real over here in the Wrestling
Yeah,
Fluency
keeping it
world.
real. Whoop whoop. That's what's up.
Yeah.
So, before we get into our topic, me and Brandie would like to address a couple things, and it's a few takeaways from last night's episode of SmackDown. So I know Brandie has something she wants to talk about, so Brandie, take it away.
So, on the last episode, for those of you who didn't catch it, it is up on YouTube and on most streaming platforms now, so go check it out. Matt and I talked about this Liv Morgan issue. This issue with her writing, this issue with the direction they're going. And we kind of predicted exactly what was going to happen last night. Liv has been so underwhelmingly written. And she, other than just being like having a lot of spunk and everyone feeling like she had that it factor, she did not have the background built to be a credible threat against Ronda Rousey, people like Shayna Baszler. I mean, like, Natty, people can believe it because they're like, okay, Natty's working with her. But, like, here's what happens when you don't plan ahead for stories. And I know they probably to a certain degree plan ahead for stories, but they don't have any kind of structure set up. And when you don't have structure to your story, you've got a bunch of wild stuff going on. And that's how you wind up with finishes like the terrible finish that Liv and Ronda had at SummerSlam. And now, like, there's this whole debate about, whether Liv tapped or got pinned, but the next challenger isn't even Ronda, it's Shayna Baszler, who again is one of the top women in the division. No one is going to buy Liv Morgan at this current stage being able to take on and win against someone like Shayna Baszler.
Right.
And so,
I was going
go
to
ahead,
say,
Matt.
and with Shayna Baszler, a lot of people or a lot of fans, including myself, has been like, finally, we have been waiting for Shayna to get pushed ever since she came up on the main roster. But to have the idea and adding on to what Brandie was saying, to have her be believable to beat Shayna, I don't know how I feel about that. But I was gonna say, sorry to interrupt, Brandie, but go right ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. The situation with Liv is just such a typical WWE thing. It's a girl that's gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. Obviously, she's got physical talent. She might not be the best wrestler, but she can wrestle around. She needs to work people. And the thing is that she has no credibility because what was she doing up to winning this? Getting her ass handed to her by Rhea Ripley.
Or Doudrop,
I mean, let's face it, we love Liv. Yeah, we love Liv because she's our underdog. But the majority of her matches the past year or her whole time on the roster has been her getting her ass handed to her. And now because she cashes in on Money in the Bank, all of a sudden she's this Billy Badass. No, you didn't. You got lucky in one match. And now we're supposed to believe that you're physically capable. No one believes that Liv is physically capable of taking on Ronda Rousey or Shayna Baszler because it hasn't been sold to us.
Right, exactly.
And you do that through fucking storytelling. And since the WWE is shit at storytelling, apparently even under Triple H's reign, but we'll talk about that later, that we hope that it's getting better. But right now, this is shit. It's a fuck up that they've got to fix. And you don't fix it by making your strong women look weak to put over a weaker woman. You convince the crowd through a series of stories and matches that Liv is tough enough to take on these women. Liv has no business in the first two defenses of her title reign or the first three, because she's defended against Natty. That's three of the best women in the business right now. I mean, I know Rhonda, say what you will about her being green or so, but she's like one of, she's the top draw, and she's quite talented herself. She did amazing in that match. So, I mean, and plus she's Ronda fucking Rousey. She's a brand name. You know, it's like, this is Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan needs to be beating the Zelenas and the Carmelas and going up the ranks. There's a change she needs to be working up. And because they have failed to do that, what are they doing? It appears like they're going to try to turn her heel. And that's WWE's answer to everything. When they can't figure out how to write a good hero, they just turn them heel. And then the people, because being a heel's easier and people like heels more, and so being a heel gets them over. And then they just slowly transition them to a babyface rather than just being talented enough to write a good fucking babyface. I don't see how you have someone as moldable as Liv Morgan and you fuck it up. That's not on Liv. That's on the writers. It's on the producers of those matches, and it's on the people who are writing these shitty ass storylines. Go back and learn how to write structured writing. You all have degrees in this shit and allegedly experience. So use it. Use some common damn
Amen,
sense.
sister.
And that's my rant about Liv Morgan. But that we pretty much predicted it, Matt. The last episode I went on that whole rant about the 3-act structure, and we walked through Liv Morgan, how to make her credible.
Exactly.
And they did exactly the opposite. So exactly what we said was going to happen happened. She's getting booed out of the building on SmackDown.
And the thing is with that is that they had every opportunity they could to make her credible, and they didn't pull the fucking trigger. And they do that with a lot of baby faces. They get corny real quick. I mean, sure, you get excited for them, i.e. example, Kofi Mania. But the thing was, as excited as I was for Kofi Kingston being the champion and finally having it happen, he didn't seem that convincing as a champion. And that's not taking anything away from Kofi. He just didn't seem that strong of a superstar on the roster to take out, prime example, Brock Lesnar, who took him out in a few fucking seconds.
Yeah. And, what irritates me also the most is Kayla Braxton said something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Becky Lynch said something about it in character. But there's a lot of people that are like, the fans are so fickle. Liv deserved this. She deserves this run. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. What's her name? Gianna Daddio?
Yeah, Gianna.
I'm sure she's worked her ass off backstage, and she does deserve a run. And she also deserves to be written well.
Yep, that too.
So, yeah, it's like the fans are booing the character. They're not booing Liv Morgan. These people get online and they act like the fans booing is them booing Gianna. They're not booing Gianna. They love her. They wanted her to get where she is. They're booing the fact that this character that they've grown to love is being written so terribly. Yeah. And they're just sick of it because they see it happen all the time. It is the MO of WWE at this point. And it doesn't fall back. Gianna can deliver when you give her a good promo. And she can deliver in matches if you pair her up with good people. She's a likable girl. It should be so cake easy to get her over. People want to love her. They want to cheer her. But if you write her shit storylines, no one's going to do it. And so it makes me mad to see people online being mad at the fans. I'm like, the fans are giving you feedback that they don't like what they're seeing. That is direct. And honestly, at this point, if you cannot withstand getting booed, then you should not be in live performance. As someone who's done live performance several times, as someone who did stand-up comedy, if people aren't liking the product you're giving them, so the monologue you've written, the joke you've written, It doesn't matter that you think it's funny. They don't think it's funny. So you need to find where you can
Yep.
change it.
And I was gonna say, may I
Your
interject, Brandie?
Yeah.
So, as y'all don't know, I'm from around Philadelphia. Okay. And the thing is, if you're performing in front of a crowd like a Philly crowd, we will boo you. It don't matter if you're a baby face. It don't matter if you're a heel. If we think you suck, we think you suck. And the thing is, on top of it, you can't really blame us for disapproving of things that are trash and things we don't like. We're going to call it out. We're going to say, hey, we don't like this. We don't approve of this. And adding on to what Brandie was saying, we're giving you honest feedback. We're not going to play into something that's fabricated, something that's not authentic, and something that we don't like. So of course we're going to boo it, and you can't really blame us. But that's kind of like my short rant on that, Brand. To be honest with you.
Well, they've gotten so far away from what the art of wrestling actually was and what the art of the wrestling promo actually was. Back in the day, if someone had booed Ric Flair, do you think he would have been rattled? Do you think that he would have been like on Twitter complaining? He would have been on Twitter in character talking about how awful these people are, or something like that. But nobody could run over Ric Flair when he was on the
Nah,
mic. You
nah,
know?
because Rick didn't play
And
that.
this generation of wrestlers, they cannot work the crowd because they have not been taught to be live performers and think on their feet. They've not been taught to improv. They've been taught to remember a script and go out there and do it. That's why the product's shit. And that's why you have moments like Liv looking visibly upset and then Kayla Braxton in the ring looking visibly upset that she's getting booed.
Yep, and that's the thing on top of it too. And you hit the nail right on the head, Brandie. Is because they're used to this whole scripted system. They're not used to being authentic and not used to being genuine. And when you have that like beated down into you, it's hard to kind of adjust to the whole being authentic and being genuine, to where the crowd
Yeah,
actually believes the character. They believe who you are. You're actually showing why I should give a fuck to pay a ticket to see you.
exactly. So, WWE in the future, invest in some acting lessons for these people, but also improving lessons. I don't know what's happening in the promo classes down there, but these ain't the same promos that we got when Dusty was in charge.
Yep, exactly. So there should be really no excuse because a lot of the stuff that Dusty was doing down there, especially for the kids down there in NXT, they did wonders. There was a lot of good wrestlers that came out of there. Your Seth Rollins, your Wyatt families, your Big E's, and the list goes on and on. So there's no
Yeah.
reason why you should have a failed system in something that worked before.
Yeah. I'm not saying that the fan base does not deserve criticism at times because, as we know, the wrestling fan base can be toxic as
Absolutely.
hell. But this is not a situation where it's the fans' fault.
Mm-mm.
This is a situation of people trying to wiggle out of taking ownership of the fact that they have written a fucking turd.
Yeah.
It's a turd. It's a turd of a
Yep.
storyline.
Exactly.
You've given one of your most promising young women, one that everybody wants to cheer, and given her a mess of dog crap to work with. Write her good storylines, book her in believable matches, produce good matches for her to where she looks strong, and don't do things like devalue Ronda Rousey, devalue Natalia, devalue Shayna Baszler in the process. When you sacrifice your whole roster for one woman and it still doesn't work, then what the fuck was the
Yep.
sacrifice for?
Exactly. And I get the whole idea of turning chicken shit into chicken salad. But honestly, at this point, you gave Liv Morgan a whole freaking mound of freaking shit to try to turn into chicken salad. And it almost seems like it might not be impossible, but it's going to be a hard road for her.
Well, yeah, unless they have a dramatic turnaround. And I freaking hate it when they're like, hey, this isn't working. Let's just make him a heel. I hate that
Yeah,
that is the
that
answer to every time something
it
doesn't
feels
work in
like their cop out.
WWE.
It
Make him
feels
a
like their
heel.
cop out, Brandy. It really is. It's a cop
It is
out.
a cop
It's like,
out.
oh, let's turn him heel. Like, what the fuck is that supposed to do?
Well, and a lot of times it
Yeah,
works,
it
but
does from time to time, but not for everybody.
fans have smartened up to the fact that they're being
Bamboozled.
placated.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just irritated me. So that's it. I've rambled on and ranted about this long enough. We'll get to Matt's part of SmackDown
Yeah.
he wanted to talk about.
All right. So, show of hands, although I can't see all of you. Y'all are like the John Cena's to me. Who popped when you heard Karrion Kross's music? That first chord, that do 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 do. Who popped?
Me.
I did. Yep. Yep. Oh my God, we all did because I'm sure I was talking to you about this, Brandie. I was just like, Karrion Kross was one of those guys. He was dang near impossible to f up. He had the look. He has the charisma. Is he that smooth in the ring? Not really, but he's a powerhouse, strong guy who has a little bit of strong style influence. So more than likely, he's going to be great eventually in the ring. He's going to be polished. But the thing is with that is we have to keep this momentum going to where he's a strong character and he is an opposable threat to actually get the WWE Championship. That's one of my biggest concerns, and that's one of my biggest worries about things like that. I mean, ever since Triple H has honestly took the reins of WWE, things have gotten better. We've seen the people that we wanted to see win. But right now, we're in the honeymoon phase, and I see a lot of fans saying, oh, Triple H took over. WWE is going to be great again. Yeah, that's fine if you feel that way, but we're in the honeymoon period. As soon as that happens, as soon as the honeymoon period's over, now the real work begins. So,
Yeah, I have faith in Triple H, but it's easy for us to feel optimistic right now because we're getting surprises left and right, and our faves are finally getting a moment, and that's great. That's a great way to start coming out of the gate. But he's really going to have to lean on that creative to help continue the momentum because bringing in the talent is what he can do, the biggest thing he can do. But if his creative team can't write a story for them, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, exactly.
We saw that with Karrion Kross's first run. He came from NXT where he was beloved and people thought he was amazing, up to the main roster with the shitty ass writing team they had.
Yep,
and
giving him a gimp mask.
Oh my God. And I'm not a kink shamer here, but I was like, what did this have to do with Karrion Kross?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, whatever you do in the bedroom floats your boat, but that didn't work for Karrion at all.
I don't know. I was happy to see him. I was thrilled to see Scarlett. She just adds
she definitely does.
To she's one of those managers that you're like, yes. She is like the cherry on top of this amazing pie. Love to see her. It was exactly how it should have been last time. But I'm kind of glad he's got the hair now.
Definitely, because it gives him an interesting look.
I think it makes him look handsome, which is good for the female viewership.
Oh, for sure. For you, of course.
Well, you got to remember, still 30% of wrestling viewership is from women.
That is true.
And, a good percent of 30% is probably heterosexual to bisexual women. So we want to look at nice looking men. Come on.
Just as much as we want to look at nice looking women.
Yeah. I feel like the male wrestling community forgets. I don't remember who it was. It was Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette was fussing about Liv Morgan. Or no, he wasn't fussing about Liv Morgan. He was fussing about the Bella Twins biography thing and stuff like that. And he was like, this is not a wrestling bio. Nobody wants to watch this. Da, da, da. And I was like, Jim, with all due respect, 99% of the time wrestling caters to the male viewers, even though the base of viewers is, pretty split. So just once, every once in a blue moon, I think it's okay for WWE to have a program that's just for the girls.
Yeah.
You know?
And the thing is, we want to reach all the dynamics. And it came back to, and I'm glad to see this happen for WWE in general. I don't know why somebody's trying to reach out to me right now. I ain't got time. But anyway, that they're reaching out to the 18 to the late 30, which is kind of my group. I'm on my way to 40. But anyway, I'm glad that we're reaching that dynamic, because it's just like, hey, these people can afford tickets to see us, so why not cater to them as well too? Because the kids sure as shit ain't buying them.
Well, yeah, you gotta cater to the people that are buying, that have money. 11-year-olds can't buy things. And I think we're going to see that.
Unless they sell some lemonade.
Selling some lemonade. I think the reason I was really excited is because he came back, and I like the character anyway, because as I've said many times, I like those darker, gothier kind of characters. But he came back, and he is immediately credible as a top guy. And as we know, WWE is really hard up for top guys right now. So he came in as a top guy, immediately put himself in the fray with Drew McIntyre and Roman, the top guys. I'm like, yeah, this is good shit. This is
good shit. That's what I'm talking about.
Vinnie Mac. This is good shit. So I have hope and faith in Triple H. I need him to ride creative's ass like they've never been ridden before. Saddle up. It's a rodeo.
Exactly.
Okay?
And y'all are the workhorses.
Yeah. It's like, come on. It's a huge corporation. You know that they have access to market research, focus groups, all kinds of stuff. And if they don't, WWE will gladly be a focus group. You can run shit by us. We'll tell you what we think about it. Yeah, tweet us. We'll talk. But they've got access to market research. Twitter is an immediate feedback loop of that. Hello, use what you got. Well, that's all I have to say about it. Matt, what about you?
So what I think about the Karrion Kross return was, it was a bit of a surprise, and I think a lot of fans, including myself, did not expect it. I heard him have talks with Triple H of resigning, but I never knew that they were going to follow through on this. And I think that is an amazing moment. A lot of people won't forget it. And I think it's going to go into our topic, by the way, Brandie, which is TV moments that happened in wrestling.
Matt and I have put together top 5 list of our 5 favorite TV moments.
Yep. And I was going to say, me and Brandie are going to go back and forth from 5 to 1. So shall I start off, or are you ready to name off yours?
No, go ahead.
All right. So starting off at number 5, and this occurred on actually a Monday Night Raw taping. And this was, we're going back into the DeLorean. This is July 6th of 1998. And this is when D-Generation X was feuding with the Nation of Domination. And they did an impersonation of the Nation. Triple H was dressed as The Rock. Road Dogg was dressed as D'Lo. X-Pac was dressed as Mark Henry. His name was Mizark Henry. Billy Gunn was dressed as the Godfather, named himself the Gunfather, and I believe Chyna was just dressed as herself. But they hired an actor to play Owen Hart, and he did a damn good impression. And I'd go back and watch it because I can't believe how much he sounds like Owen. I believe the actor's name was Jason Sensation. But yeah, he was dressed like Owen Hart. He had the nose, he had the costume. I think Owen Hart in a later episode of I think it was Raw where Owen Hart attacked him and locked him in the sharpshooter and had him tapping out. But for the most part, for that moment, that was just hilarious. And in that case, I think it's safe to say is you should have smelled what the crock was cooking. That was Triple
Yeah.
H's character, The Rock.
Yeah. Um, that was definitely a memorable moment. It's come under fire recently, in recent years, just for not being as socially sensitive as it should have been at the time. But all in all, still was a humorous moment. So I can see why that would be on your list.
Yeah, and the thing is, on top of that, why it wouldn't be socially acceptable for nowadays is that kind of product nowadays. They were willing to push the envelope, and things were very edgy. So they were just basically throwing anything out there, and hey, if it stuck, it stuck, and if it didn't, they knew not to do it again. But then again, nowadays it'll come up quick, like, "Whoa, you shouldn't do that." So
Yeah.
just to avoid getting canceled.
Nowadays, and should have been all days, but nowadays, blackface is frowned upon. So
Oh
they
yeah,
could have still done the segment, but maybe not have participated in the blackface.
right, exactly. Especially with X Pac doing that of Mark Henry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, my number 5, and I don't remember necessarily the date. I could have looked it up and I just forgot about it. But is my number 5 moment is when Shane McMahon buys WCW out from under Vince McMahon.
Ooh.
That whole moment on television. I remember just being like sad that WCW was going under, but I didn't really watch it that much. But when I found out, like, oh my God, Shane bought it, it was such a cool plot twist because everybody loves Shane and has for the majority of his career in WWE. So of course I loved Shane, and I was just like, you know, feeling a little sad, like, oh, it's so sad to see WCW go, and then like having Shane quote unquote buy it. I was like, oh, they're actually going to do something with the wrestlers. Nice.
Yep, and I think it was a moment for me too, and I kind of agree with Brandie on this. It was a sad moment for me because I grew up watching WCW, and that was one of the things that little Penny Matt watched after Saturday morning cartoons or right around that time. That was like my Saturday morning lineup to watch WCW before WWF came on. So it was sad to see it go, but it was a cool moment to see Shane buy it off. And I was kind of hoping they'd sort of have their own brand, but under the WWE or WWF umbrella at the time. But hey, I was going to say never. And I'm leaving the door open for that idea.
Are you going to do your number 4?
Oh, number 4. So, number 4. All right. So, we are moving on to number 4. And number 4 is when Stone Cold destroys the DX Express. And this is on a SmackDown taping that occurred April 27th, 2000. And this moment was really cool because it showed a moment where people are like, holy cow, did Stone Cold do that? Because we've seen countless moments where Stone Cold tortured Vince McMahon, from beating him up in his hospital room to putting cement in his Corvette. But this moment right here was one of the ones that stood out to me, and I thought, holy cow, he went there. And I think it was a moment where D-Generation X was looking for Stone Cold, and The Rock was hinting him on, saying that Stone Cold is around somewhere, but they couldn't find out where. So suddenly, The Rock gets on the mic, says, Stone Cold is here. And Stone Cold says, I'm out in the parking lot, you jackasses. And proceeds to blow up DX's tour bus, which was
Oh,
all.
Stone Cold. Pretty much any given Stone Cold moment could be a TV moment.
Oh, yeah, because Stone Cold was one of those superstars that just created those moments, and it was just fantastic. And matter of fact, I was going to say I could probably name a whole bunch of Stone Cold moments, but I didn't want to make it all a whole Stone Cold thing.
Yeah.
Although I will admit I am a bit of a Stone Cold Mark. I said it. I am a Stone Cold Mark.
Yeah. Well, my number four that I chose, and I didn't think too much about it, how I put these in order, but my number four was CM Punk's Pipe Bomb.
Mm.
I had stopped watching wrestling in 2006 or 2007 after Lita retired. I was just like, she was my favorite wrestler, and I just didn't have, the women's division was going to shit, so I just didn't have anything to really hold on to. With my favorite retiring, I was like, yeah, there's no point in dedicating time of the week to that. And I think I'd watch every once in a while, but it was CM Punk's Pipe Bomb that got me watching full time again. Um, my friend had told me about this guy named CM Punk and how he was doing like these really crazy things on SmackDown. So you'd watch CM Punk stuff every once in a while. And then I think this was 2013. He took this turn for the CM Punk we knew before he left WWE. And I was really captivated by it. And I really enjoyed watching him and the John Cena feud. And I enjoy the CM Punk character a lot. I guess I would say I'm a CM Punk mark.
Hey, nothing wrong with that either.
Nothing wrong.
Yep, nothing wrong because he is the best in the world.
Okay.
But all right,
Number three.
number three. My number three moment was during a match between Eddie Guerrero and JBL, and it was on SmackDown. I believe it was July 15th, 2004. And that is when Eddie Guerrero did a frog splash on the JBL off the top of a 15-foot steel cage. Pretty similar to when Jimmy Snuka dove off the cage doing his whole Superfly splash onto Don Morocco. But this was an amazing moment, and I was just like, holy cow, this feud between Eddie Guerrero and JBL was personal. But then again, that was one of my favorite feuds in wrestling or WWE in general, because it was just a feud that just got you invested. And on top of
Yeah.
that, too, I wasn't. I'll say this too. I'm a huge Eddie Guerrero mark as well too. I'm a big fan of Eddie Guerrero and always have been. And just the fact that he pulled off that moment, it just stuck out in my head, and I still talk about to this day. And wow, I just thought Eddie was a great performer. He put on great matches. He did a lot of emotional storytelling. He was a great character. And I really was a fan of Eddie Guerrero, especially when he do the lie, cheat, and steal stuff. But how about you, Brandie? What's your number three?
I especially loved Eddie Guerrero during
Oh,
the
sir.
Mamacita phase.
Oh,
I
yeah.
one thing that I think that listeners will really be able to tell is that you have a lot of stuff geared towards, or just in general, you have a lot of conversation geared towards like match kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a lot of conversation towards like storytelling, and that's because I am a storyteller. I'm a writer. I've done stuff like as a performer, and I'm using air quotes there, a
Mm-hmm.
person who has been considered a performer in the past. That kind of stuff sticks out to me. So my number three is a feat of acting that was wonderful, and that was JR's long form interviews with Mankind.
Mm. Yep. I really dug that because you really believed that Mick Foley took the Mankind character and made him out to be a little bit human, but also at the same time a little bit nuts.
It was disturbing, but not too
Mm-hmm.
far in the direction of to where it was like unwatchable. It was a fascinating train wreck to watch.
Right. And it was just one of those things that was really cool about Mick Foley doing the Mankind character, where he was just a regular guy under a mask and very deranged, but he just wanted to be accepted. He just wanted to be loved and cared for. And, a lot of people can kind of relate to that, especially people who are kind of like, they kind of carry themselves a bit like outsiders, or could be considered like the non-conventional, not, well, I can't talk now, the non-conventional or not the cookie cutter type, you know?
Yeah. I love Mick Foley. I love him through all his forms, like him as even the commissioner. When I was thinking of these moments, one of the moments that stuck out so much was, and I'll consider this like an honorable mention, but when Edge and Christian were the tag champions and they were trying to get out of defending their titles against, I think, the APA on like Heat or something like that.
Yeah, I
And they
think that
kept
was.
doing crazy stuff, and Foley kept being like, "Oh, well, too bad, you got to go out there." I liked that. As much as I'm like, wrestling needs to do this, I'm like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, that comedy bullshit." I'm like, you can have comedy in this show.
Right.
There was tons of stuff in the Attitude Era that was comedy that I thought was really funny, and Mick Foley and Edge and Christian segments were definitely one of them. Um, but yeah, so that was my number 3, was the Mankind interview with JR. We hadn't really seen anything like that. We hadn't really seen a character like that. And it's just an iconic interview. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it.
Yep. Definitely something in the archives to see, and definitely, in my opinion, got over Mick Foley to me as a character, where I'm like, all right, Mick, we see you.
We see you, Mick.
Yep. But all right, on to number 2, and we are cooking here. And this one definitely sticks out to me, and that is the Stone Cold versus Booker T in the supermarket brawl at the Green Frog. And I believe this happened on SmackDown, and this was December 13th, 2001. And man, I tell you, that's probably the most fun I think I've seen those two do, although Booker T was getting his ass handed to him most of the time. Excuse me, sir, do you have any great poop on? And Stone Cold squirts the mustard on Booker T.
Oh, it was so funny. In my head, whenever anyone says anything about this, I immediately see the milk, like when he hit him with the milk.
Yep.
That's what I always see.
Yep. Thanks, Book. You got milk?
Oh, so that was your number 2.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed that moment, and it was just fun to watch. It was just a fun segment.
My number 2 is from a pay-per-view, so it's technically not television, but is television if you bought the pay-per-view.
All right.
And at this point, it's been shown so many times that it's a television moment. And it's from Armageddon 99, where Stephanie turns on Vince for the first time. The like culmination of in the beginning of the McMahon Helmsley era.
Yep.
Era, not error. Era.
Era.
Sometimes my accent will make me say things weird, but the McMahon Helmsley era.
Yes, indeed, and that was actually a good for moment. Blah. I also can't talk now. A good for TV moment where it's just like, oh man, Daddy's little girl just turned on her papa.
It's so full circle because, like, at that time, I don't think they were dating at that specific time. I think it came later.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they started out, they were just working this angle together.
Right.
And so it's so crazy to think, like, that moment started in 99. That was the beginning of those two doing a storyline that would eventually lead to them dating. And now, flash forward to now, Stephanie's co-CEO of the company, and Triple H is in charge of talent. And is he in charge of creative too?
Yes, he's in charge of creative as well too, and talent relations.
There's hope. There's hope if he's in charge of both of those. But
yeah.
So that was one of my favorite moments. Those emotional moments, and like during that time frame, I was thinking back, and I was like, man, the McMahon family, their drama they had was so great. Like, when Linda was in the chair and Vince was obviously having like the affair with Trish Stratus, and
yep.
And she gets up out of the chair and smacks him, and Trish smacks him too. Like, even with the dog barking thing, that was such like iconic moments. The McMahons have really just had such iconic moments on TV.
Oh yeah, they definitely did. And their family drama, we have watched it grow from the early 90s up until the 2000s, even in the Alliance era as well too, where it continued.
It did.
And from then on with the Authority, even and and on top of that, the comeback from Shane McMahon as well too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we love the
So
McMahons.
we do. So that was my number two.
Yep. All right. So wow, we're really cooking here, Brandie. So we are now down to numero uno, and this is actually not in WWE, but this happened to be in WCW, and I believe this was during a Monday Nitro taping. And this is a backstage segment where the outsiders attacked the WCW superstars backstage. They laid out Arn Anderson. They laid out Marcus Bagwell, who later on became Buff Bagwell. They laid out Scotty Riggs and took poor little Rey Mysterio and threw him like a lawn dart against a trailer.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's so crazy that you can like see that in your head, like his little purple tights.
Oh, yeah. Through poor little Rey Mysterio. I was like, oh my God. And I was a and I'm a Rey Mysterio guy too. Yeah, it was an awesome moment, but it made a duo, a tag team, Hall and Nash, it made them seem like a threat. And I'm going to go on a short rant. I feel like that's what's missing right now, especially with stables or anything new that comes in. I feel like the idea of the threat is missing, i.e., the Judgment Day. Don't even get me started on that because you'll be here for a while. But for a short rant, I will say this, that they could have made it great. They could have made them a threat, and they could have made some great moments for TV. But once again, WWE Creative shows that they are incapable or incompetent of doing it, which I don't understand why, because Brandie just stated that a lot of these folks have degrees and also have TV experience, so they obviously know how to write for TV. So what seems to be the problem? And
Well, you
that
got
just
to
drives
think
me nuts.
these people are coming out of Hollywood, and when's the last time Hollywood made anything original?
Yeah, aside from Marvel movies
Yeah,
or
like
remakes.
I was recently watching something about this, and this is kind of a sidebar tangent, but like the entertainment industry, the movie industry, the music industry is so incestuous in the fact that like you have to know somebody. And
Mm-hmm.
it used to be back in the day, people from record labels would go out to local bars and stuff and they would watch the local bands and
Mm-hmm.
they'd be like, wow, those people are good. Let's sign them. And they don't do that anymore. They just go, what's popular on TikTok right now?
Or what's hot
Okay,
on
these are,
YouTube.
yeah, okay, all right, we'll sign that. And like a lot of times that stuff is either fake, like Travis Scott is well known for this. Like he was a SoundCloud rapper. They bought all his likes and his listens and stuff like that. So Travis Scott does not actually have the accolades that people want to give him because they were bought for him.
Right. And I'm just going to say, sorry to interrupt you, Brandie, but the fact that he's a hip hop artist and didn't go through kind of like the mixtape era, because rappers out there, and that's actually how Jay-Z pretty much started out before he made his fortune. And same thing with Master P. They sold mixtapes out the back of their trunks and would
Mhm.
hope that a record label locally would actually know them and eventually give them a little bit of money and any kind of royalties that they might need to push and promote their albums. So it was a lot to do, and it just seems like artists like Travis Scott just had it handed to him. You know?
They did. And I don't want people to be like, "Oh, girl, just hating on Travis Scott." Like there's some Travis songs that I really like,
Yeah, there's a few that I
but
rock with, but
yeah,
we're not hating
but
on the
like
guy.
yeah, no hate to him. If someone walked up to me and said, "Hey, do you want to be an industry plant? I can make you this many millions," I'd probably be like, "Sign me up too, boy."
Amen. Same
But
here. We both would.
yeehaw,
Yeah.
what do I gotta do?
Yep.
Which Jenner Kardashian am I dating? Let's do this. But but yeah, that's the problem, is that there's everything is so streamlined. That's why all the music sounds the same. That's why nothing hits the way it used to hit. Um and you have to like think about it. You have to go back so far. Like the truly iconic people, because like yeah, people who are like Beyonce and like Jay-Z and stuff like that. That's Gen X. I'm pretty sure they're considered Gen X.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like, I think, are you Gen X, Matt?
I was gonna say I think I'm before that,
No, because
or
Beyonce's
matter of fact,
40.
I might be exennial.
Yeah,
Is that
you're
exennial?
yeah, you're either in the Xennial or like the one of the elder millennials.
Yeah.
I'm like an elder millennial myself. I'm 34, about to be 35.
Yeah. We're the OG millennials.
Yeah. So like people who were like coming up big when we were younger, they're, Zennial, they're
Yeah.
Gen X. But like when you stop and think about it, there's not really too many people from the millennial
Mm-hmm.
group that have really achieved that kind of status. And then even you get into Gen Z and there's very few. And when you look at those few, you can look and see, like Billie Eilish, people adore Billie Eilish, and Billie Eilish, you can like her music, that's fine, but she's an industry plant as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like her family, Hollywood is incestuous, where everybody knows somebody.
Right.
Like, even, I think Taylor Swift is one, they try to make it out like she had to struggle. No, she did not. She had rich parents. They had connections.
Right.
All these people had fucking connections. So it was already hard enough to break into the industry.
Yeah.
And then when everything got automated, especially after social media,
Mm-hmm.
there was a small boom with like MySpace where regular people could get famous again. But
Oh yeah,
now
definitely.
everything's engineered. Everything is engineered to distract your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been the same thing with Hollywood. Man, Hollywood used to make amazing movies. They'd have great movies coming out.
Right.
And now what do they come out with? A Marvel movie every year.
Yep. And
A stupid Marvel movie.
And I was gonna say,
every year.
and the thing is, I'm a Marvel movie fan, but after a while, you're just like, you want to see something different. You want to see an original movie that someone actually came up with on their own, from plot, characters, what's the hero, why are they there, what's their reason, who's the antagonist, things of that nature.
And I will say that this even happens in the book industry because, as y'all know, I'm a writer and a novelist working on a novel. And so I've been a reader my whole life. And there was a series, and I won't name names, but I remember being younger and like having to wait a couple of years for the books to come out. And then and they were so good. I was like, oh my God, these are so good. And then it got to where there was one every year. And I was like, oh, this is shit. So you get this stuff. And I've had that happen so many times. I'll start reading an author's series, and the first couple books will be good because they took their time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third, fourth, however in the series, all of a sudden it's shit. Because everything is so mass produced. Nothing is about like actual art or expression anymore. It's, hey, what are the like buzzwords for the demographic you're writing for? Like, how much money can we make off of this? And when money is your only motivator, yeah, you can get a lot of shit, but you also make a lot of shit. And that's how we wind up with the things we have today. And so that was a very long tangent.
Yeah.
Just to say.
On both our ends. we both.
I don't even remember why we started down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But
well, reeling it back in and bringing it back home, we were mostly talking about how Judgment Day could have been something special and could have been
That's
something
right.
great, but the writing team and the people in charge of their character could not get them over. And I don't understand how.
Because they've got the credentials, but not the talent.
Yep, exactly. And on top of that, this is the thing that I thought about. When you have no competition or really no drive or no reason to do anything, you get lazy. You
You do.
really do. You lose your hunger, you lose your drive, and you're just like, there's no competition. There's no reason why we should work our asses off. But when that little bit of competition comes up, especially i.e. AEW, that's when you might want to start working. Or who knows, Impact might come up. Or who knows, maybe New Japan might come up.
Well,
But I'm just saying.
actually, if you think about it, Hunter has or Paul Levesque, however you want to call him these days, but
Street name.
he has a unique position in the fact that even if he doesn't want to consider AEW competition, which I'm sure that he side eyes them, but his competition is 40 years worth of Vince McMahon programming.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's his turn to be the Mr. McMahon and his turn to create this back catalog of wrestling moments. Like all the moments we've been talking about up till now are all moments of the Vince McMahon era. And now we're in the Paul Levesque era. So even if he doesn't have outside competition in the form of another company, he still has internal competition.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And on top of that, now that you mentioned Vince McMahon, say whatever you want about the guy, but Paul Levesque, Triple H, whatever you want to call him, has big shoes to fill. But that's just kind of my take on it, especially for the time that Vince McMahon has put in to bring us these moments, bring us these characters that have come into our homes and come into our lives, made us laugh, made us cry, made us emotionally invested as fans. And now, as Brandie just said, it is Triple H's turn, and he will take the reins. And I got faith in Triple H. I will say that. But like I said, got big shoes to fill.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, Matt, I think it's time to get to number one.
All right, number one on your end. Sorry about that, Brandie. We went on a tangent.
I don't think you did number one. I think we were coming off of number two.
I actually named off my number one, and that's when that NWO attacked the WCW superstars, and right. and how I was basically saying, and matter of fact, I'm going to round out my point too on top of that. Sorry, Brandie, before we get to this.
I got so far down that rabbit hole that I forgot.
Yeah, but back to my point, that's when you had stables come in and they were threats. They were visual and physical threats. And you said, holy shit, what are they going to do next? Because that was me watching WCW and watching the NWO. Because they were the bad guys, but they were the bad guys I actually rooted for and thought they were awesome, especially when Hogan joined and became Hollywood Hogan. Like, I really loved that character.
As much as people, that generation's like every generation has had their bad guy that like makes them root for the bad guy. You know, Ric Flair is an example, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But NWO and DX were definitely that generation's bad guys to root for.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they were the grunge era. They were the Wu-Tang Clan.
That's right.
Yep.
So my number one, no one is going to guess it, not in 100,000 years, because it's probably special to nobody but me or like other millennial women who grew up watching wrestling it's very niche. It's a very niche pick. But
hit us with it,
my number one TV moment was the culmination of Lita's matches with Dean Malenko, where Matt interferes and they have their first kiss in the ring. It was so perfect. As someone who loves story, as someone who writes romance, it was. I watched it back for this, and I was like, it is just so pure and so like innocent, and I just loved it. And it was one of the few moments in wrestling history that was written with women in mind, because Matt kisses her and then he's like, oh my God, I shouldn't have kissed you
Right.
without your consent. Oh my God, I'm so like fucked up about this. I gotta go. He's like hitting his head when he gets out the ring. And then
Yep.
you get to see it play across her face where she's like, Matt just kissed me.
Yep.
And then she's like, Matt just kissed me. And she gets out of the ring and she runs up and whips him around
Yep.
and kisses him. And Lawler and JR are just going on like, oh my God, she likes it. You know, they're
Yep.
playing up that in the beginning, they're playing up that like, how could he just kiss her? You don't just kiss someone against their will. And then, oh my God, JR,
Yep.
she swallowed him whole.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that was that's one of the things that I was talking about, like those emotional moments that had you invested, and you were like, "Wow, that was a pretty cool moment." It's almost like we just watched a romantic flick right there.
It was so look,
And,
I grew up on soap operas, okay? I grew up with the
yep,
Southern Grandma.
I was going to say same here, especially pretty much being homesick and well, faking sick. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell my parents. Watching all the soap opera lineups like Young and the Restless and Guiding Light and all them kind of deals.
Yeah, and I am a hopeless romantic myself. So I, being a young girl, this was, I think, 2001.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
was
sounds about right.
probably like between 12 and 14 at this time, probably closer to 12. And, you know, that's when like a lot of young girls are getting interested in boys or girls, whatever, you know, you wind up being interested
Yeah,
in. But for me, it
whatever's your
happened to be
cup of
boys.
tea. We don't
And
judge here.
I also had the very selfish 12-year-old part of me that was happy that Matt and Lita got together because it was so sweet. Like I can go back in as an adult and break it down, especially from a romance writer's perspective, and talk about why it was such a great moment.
Mm-hmm.
But 12-year-old Brandie was like, "Oh my God, that's so sweet! They kissed, and oh my God, I can't wait to have that entrance in the video game," because I was obsessed with Jeff Hardy. And I was like, yay, she's not dating Jeff Hardy all the time. All the time I was obsessed with Jeff Hardy. He was totally married to his wife. But, you know, on TV, he wasn't with Lita.
Right.
So it had that added effect of little 12-year-old hormonal Brandie being like, no, Jeff, no.
Yeah. Oh my God, no.
Such a fangirl. I fangirled over wrestlers the same way that I fangirled over like boy band members, you know?
Right, right.
And my mom did too. My mom had this like gorgeous photo, like this poster of The Rock on her bedroom door. And I had like the Hardys and Lita all over my bedroom. And I would collect like everything Hardys and Lita, all their magazines, and I would go to my public library and like photocopy the interviews so I could cut up the pictures and put it in my scrapbook or hang it on my wall. I was that wrestling fan.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I was pretty intensely into them and Edge and Christian and Too Cool, like those that part of the card in women's wrestling. Like I liked the Stone Colds and stuff like that, but that last hour of Raw really wasn't for me. Those first 2 hours, that was my time with Raw. I knew what I was getting in, or the first hour or so. I knew when it was getting closer to the last bit of Raw. I was like, man, we went this whole show and I didn't see like one of my people I wanted to see.
Yeah, and I was going to say, speaking on that, Brandie, that kind of reminds me, and going back to WCW, that was one of my favorite parts of WCW, especially when the cruiserweights would come up, because as y'all know, well, if you ever see me in person, I'm built like a cruiserweight. But anyway, just seeing smaller guys go in there and perform, and in my opinion, still to show, that was the reason I wanted to watch Monday Nitro every week, to see the Dean Malenkos, the Chris Jerichos, the Eddie Guerreros, the Ultimo Dragons, and of course, my man, Rey Mysterio, pretty much just put on a wrestling clinic, whether it be lucha libre or any kind of technical wrestling. I thought that was fun. I mean, granted, I love the NWO stuff, and I'll say it again, I rooted for the NWO, and that was one of the stables that gave me reason to kind of root for the bad guys, but they weren't Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero and Ultimo Dragon and all them.
Yeah. So when I first started watching wrestling, I was watching WCW. And the
Hmm.
reason I was watching WCW was 100% Rey Mysterio.
Yes.
Like I like the flippy shit. And so when I criticize the flippy shit about the new generation, it's not because I don't like the flippy shit. I fucking love lucha libre
Yep.
wrestling. I
I do
love the
too.
flippy shit. The Hardys and Lita were some of my
Yep.
Rey
Exactly.
Mysterio is why the cruiserweight division, especially the luchadors, was why I started watching wrestling full time. And then I became a really big Piper fan, loved Ric Flair and like the Four
Hmm.
Horsemen and stuff
Oh
like that.
yeah.
But what made me stop the channel was the luchadors in the cruiserweight division. And I liked the light heavyweight division in WWF/WWE.
Yep.
And then of course the women's division. Like I was obsessed with the Nitro girls because I was that little girl. I like am performer child. I wanted nothing more to be a cheerleader or a dancer and do martial arts and do gymnastics and all of it. Like that was
Hmm.
me to a T as a child. So when these pretty girls, because there's girls on TV, I'm like, oh, girls, I'm a girl. These pretty girls come on TV and they're wearing cool costumes and they're dancing and I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. They're amazing.
Yep. And I'll say this, low key, one of my favorite members of the Brood, believe it or not, was actually Christian because he was one of the light heavyweights and he was one of the ones that would do all the high flying shit. I know.
Yeah.
I know. In one of the moves, and I can't believe I remember this. When I was playing the video game WWF Attitude, I would always do the freaking running head scissors. Although I would get
Me
drop kicked
too.
most of the time. Dude, how cool looking was the running head scissors? Because you never seen it in video games. And the first time I seen it, I
Right.
was like, that is a cool move.
Head scissors, hurricane ranas, diving hurricane
Yep.
ranas, Frankensteiner, swanton bombs,
Planches,
moonsaults, 450 splashes, drago ranas, molly go
tope canhilos.
and of course 619.
Yep.
Always
Booyaka,
619.
booyaka.
619. Yeah, like all of it. My characters were always high flying
Yep.
characters.
Mine too.
So when Matt and I criticize your match for being too much of a spot fest, it's not because we don't like high spots. It's because your high spots didn't make any damn sense.
Yeah, there was no kind of build up to it, and it's just like, okay, you threw this high spot in there. Why?
Well, just as a sidebar, a high spot loses something when you have a long enough time to watch them set it up and watch the person prepare to catch them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem with putting too many high spots in a match. I love a good high spot, but it needs to appear as what they used to, which was a last ditch effort, this extreme thing you're going to do. The people aren't
Right.
expecting it, you know. And that's the criticism I give to like
Yeah.
Young Buck matches and stuff like that. The Young Bucks are incredibly talented athletes,
Yep. One of my favorite
but
tag teams.
yeah, and I applaud everything they're able to do and give them all the credit in the world. I just don't always like their matches because I just don't like the style of matches they put together. But I will never take away from the fact that they are physically talented in that ring.
Yep. And it just seems like, and it goes back to the earlier point that I made, where once you stop having or showing that hunger, you get kind of lazy and you get kind of complacent, and everything is like da 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 da, high spot move, super kick, super kick, super kick, and it's just like, okay, are we watching a wrestling match or am I playing freaking a game of WWE 2K?
Well, look, I get that you don't want to give it away all on free TV. I totally get that. That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But that means your story has to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
What's the story you're telling?
Yep, exactly.
Promos have got to be good. Chemistry between the characters got to be top notch.
Mm-hmm.
If you want people to continue, like that's like being like, hey, here are these like here each week is one peanut M&M. But if you come to this one show like a long way away, you'll get a whole bag of peanut M&Ms.
Right. You got to have a selling point
Yeah.
and you got to
That's
draw
like,
people in.
It's like, or how about give us a bag of peanut M&Ms each time we come, and then when that long-term event comes away, we get a slice of German chocolate cake.
Right, exactly.
I
Or,
think I'm hungry.
I was going to say, or you get two slices of pizza, and I
Oh,
and I and
pizza sounds great.
yep, and I tell you what, I've been craving pizza as of lately, Brandy. I don't know why.
I love pizza, but I am supposed to be gluten free and dairy free for my health. So I'm
And
like,
that,
yeah, I want pizza. I got to go in the grocery store and buy one of my special quote unquote pizzas.
yep, that's understandable. I was going to say, now, do you get cauliflower pizza, or is this another different special kind of pizza?
It just depends. You can do cauliflower, you can do like alternative flours. Like cassava root is a really popular like
Because
flour used.
I love me some cauliflower pizza. It is delicious.
Yeah, I love cauliflower pizza. It's good.
Yeah.
I tell you right now, I hate with a passion anything that's not real cheese.
Yeah,
I'm like, screw y'all.
that's kind of like, nah, y'all can keep your non cheese having ass and shit.
Yeah, I'll be okay. I think we need to bring this home because now I know I'm hungry. I know you're hungry because your dinner's waiting for you.
Yep, exactly. But I think for the most part, Brandy, I think we might have answered our one question that we were just thinking about, or just became a topic. What makes a good TV moment? And I think we just answered that. Do you think we
Oh,
covered
we
that?
did.
So
We did. I think
we
we covered
based
that pretty well.
so we intentionally, unintentionally just answered the last question, and that is what brings a good TV moment, and that is to basically make something memorable that talks people into the room, like Brandy just mentioned with the peanut M&M. If you get this peanut M&M, you'll get a whole bag of them. Maybe a piece of German chocolate cake, or maybe a couple slices of pizza, whatever's your bag.
I was just sitting here thinking, our listeners are like, Brandy always gives these really weird analogies, but they do work.
Yep,
When you think about them over time,
yep,
they do work.
yep. And I do that from time to time as well too. Just like my prime example of bad wrestling would be, if I go to your restaurant and I order a hamburger, you give me a shitty hamburger, do you think I'm coming back to that restaurant?
No.
Hell
We're
no.
we're very food motivated
Yep.
here.
Yep. And $1 Million Matt, fun fact, is a foodie. I love me
Million
some
Dollar
good
Matt
food.
is a foodie.
Yep.
Okay. Oh goodness.
So if I come
Well,
to your
Matt,
restaurant, better be worried. Sorry about that.
oh, it's okay. Oh, now I'm just thinking about Million Dollar Matt hitting up the taco trucks, man.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all have taco trucks up there?
Depending on if we have like a food truck festival or anything, but I wish we did.
Let me tell you, down here in the South, we have a lot of, obviously, we have like a lot of Mexican people here because we're closer to the border.
Right, right.
And it is a blessing to have a Hispanic community in your town.
Mm-hmm.
Like just a hop, skip, and a jump away, I can go get the most fire street tacos. Oh my God.
Oh, holler at your boy.
Mhm. I know. And I'm like, forget Texas. God bless Mexico. Damn, this is good.
I was going to say, whenever I visit Alabama, you have to take me to these taco trucks.
Well,
These
I will.
mythical taco trucks.
Oh man.
And I will introduce you to cheesesteaks.
Yeah, I've never had a cheesesteak. It'll be good.
Brandy, I'll tell you what, you never go back, especially when you go to my cheesesteak place. I'm just saying.
The listeners are probably like, is this a food vlog now? Like, what is going on?
Okay, people, calm your tits. It's still wrestling fluency. We just get on a
They're,
tangent and we love food. Plus, we're both
they're
hungry.
probably hungry now. All right, well, we've said a lot, Matt. Time to take it home.
All right, let's take it on home. But once again, everybody, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of Wrestling Fluency, where we speak wrestling, and we hope you do too. And that was our Rare TV Moments. Hope you all enjoyed. Peace.